Miss Heather here. We're just getting ready for another daily video, and today we're going to be talking about the things that Jesus said in his last week when he was on the earth. So today, get your listening ears on. So today's story, kids, is all about what happened to Jesus on his last days on earth. We know that what happened because people wrote it down, and the people that wrote it down were four people that if you've been to Kidz Quest, you know who they are. They're Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's right, the people who wrote the Gospels. They wrote it down for us, what happened to Jesus on his last week on earth. And today we're going to be listening to what Jesus did and what he said during that last week. So come along, let's see what comes next.
Mark 11:12 through 18. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, but it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him say it.
Now wait, Miss Kathy, are you saying that Jesus told the tree that you're not allowed to have any more fruit? Wow, that's pretty cool. Jesus could do anything, and he'd already shown the people he could do lots of miracles. The last miracle he did was he brought his friend Lazarus back to life. Wouldn't that be something? If somebody you knew had died came back to life, that you'd be so surprised. Well, the people were so excited because Jesus had been doing all these miracles. Well, his disciples heard him curse that tree. Wonder what he did next.
On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." The chief priest and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching.
So Jesus, can you imagine he went in there and he turned over the tables of the people that were selling things? Oh, that would have been pretty interesting, kind of like the Hulk. Have you ever seen the Hulk? Well, I don't think Jesus was like the Hulk because Jesus was real. And this story tells us why Jesus thought it was so important for the people not to do that. So let's see what comes next in our story.
We're reading from Mark 11, verses 20 and 21. In the morning, as they went along, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree you have cursed has withered."
So let's see what comes next in our story.
Matthew 21:23 through 24. When he entered the temple complex, the chief priests and the elders of the people came up to him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you this authority?" Jesus answered them, "I will also ask you one question, and if you answer it for me, then I will tell you by what authority I do these things."
Matthew 21, verses 25 through 27. Where did John's baptism come from? From heaven or from men? They began to argue among themselves. If we say from heaven, he will say to us, "Then why didn't you believe him?" But if we say from men, we're afraid of the crowd, because everyone thought John was a prophet. So they answered Jesus, "We don't know." And he said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things."
So let's see what comes next in our story.
Hello, Kidz Quest. Miss Cindy here. Today I'm reading from the book of Mark, chapter 14, verses 3 through 5. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard, She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages, and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly.
Do any of your moms have these little bottles that have in it some oils that are made out of plants? Ooh, they're very strong smelling. Maybe you only put a drop or two in water and it smells up your whole room. Well, that perfume that the lady gave was something that was in, it was not little like this. It was a great big bottle. It was important. It was worth a lot of money. Now you can ask your moms, these sometimes can be worth a lot of money too, and you wouldn't want to dump them out. So let's see what comes next in our story.
Mark 14, 6 through 9. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you want, you can do good for them, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for burial. And truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her."
Jesus was telling his people that he was going to die soon. They didn't understand that. They thought he was going to be their king. Well, you can't die if you're going to be the king. You got to stay alive and do things. So this is something to remember. The people heard what Jesus said, but even his friends didn't understand him. So let's see what comes next in our story.
Luke 19:47 through 48. Every day Jesus was teaching in the temple complex. The chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people were looking for a way to destroy him. But they couldn't find a way to do it because all the people were captivated by what they heard.
So we know that Jesus kept teaching in the temple, and the people were listening to him because they wanted to see a miracle for themselves. They wanted to see what Jesus was going to do next because he was the one they thought was going to be the next king. And so the chief priests, they were looking for a way to catch him. Oh, let's see what comes next.
Mark 14, 1 through 2. After 2 days, it was the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a treacherous way to arrest and kill him. Not during the festival, they said, or there may be rioting among the people.
Those leaders were awfully sneaky. They wanted to make Jesus do something wrong. Now, we know that they were very angry too, so I want to see your biggest angry face. Ready, set, go. No! Oh my word, you scared me. That was a really scary face. So let's see what comes next in our story.
14, 10 through 11. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12 disciples. He went to the chief priests to hand Jesus over to them. They were all delighted to hear that he would do this. They promised to give Judas money so he could watch for the right time to hand over Jesus to them.
So let's wait until tomorrow. We're going to talk about the festivals that Jesus was going, and we're going to go back to the Old Testament, and we're going to hear a little bit more about why they did those fancy celebrations. And then join us tomorrow night at 6:30 for Facebook Live. We're going to be doing some fun things over on our Kids Ministry page. We are going to be cooking. So make sure you get mom or dad to find some flour and some salt, some oil, and we'll need some water, and you can come cook with me. I'm so excited to see you. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
10.
So we heard that Jesus kept talking. What do you know? Oops.
Go along.
So we remember we said. Remember. Now that would be something really by the people. Yeah. And the tree had withered and died. It was awful. And I've got a broom in my view. Hello, boys and girls. We're coming to you to the Good morning, boys and girls. We're coming to. It's not morning. It's morning. Yeah. Instruction from God. So then yesterday we talked that Jesus. No, we didn't. We didn't talk about Jesus. We talked about Moses. Jesus. Instead of praying and asking God to forgive them of their sins, the people